welcome to an emergency episode of Between Two Pints. My good friend, Brian Clement, is visiting from Toronto, so...
Yes, dude.
Pardon?
Clement.
Clement?
It says right on my book.
Brian Clement. Brian Clement, my good friend from Toronto, is visiting, so we decided to film a Between Two Pints about his awesome writing and stuff. Brian, why don't you talk to the viewers and tell them a little about yourself?
I have been working in film for many years. That's why I know Rob. We worked on Meat Market 3 together some years ago. I helped on some of his film projects. He's helped on some of mine whenever I'm out in Vancouver or he's in Toronto, however it works. And I've been doing a lot of writing past couple of years. I wrote a novel which just got published, and I've got a sequel coming out hopefully soon.
Brian, actually, interesting, was an experienced independent filmmaker far before I even picked up a camera. I remember seeing posters advertising Frontline Films when I was a first-year university student at the University of Victoria.
That did happen, yeah.
Yes, I believe we met when I was filming a music video involving someone in a gorilla costume.
Gorilla costume. I came up and started talking to you about your camera.
Because you were shooting with zombies?
Yep, and I was just, I said, hey, if you want to come and help out, you want to be a part of the film, great, because we're shooting in the neighborhood, we're shooting in James Bay.
And we actually lived like a couple hundred feet away from each other at that point. It was some good times.
Yeah.
But you had this project that you were telling me earlier was a screenplay, and it's sort of evolved and done a number of things, and now I'm holding, this is the final transmission, which is a book. Here, you want to hold that up on your close-up? And you have a sequel coming out, but it's also based off of a feature film concept you had, and you shot a short film web series project?
That's right. Originally, it was written as a screenplay back in about 2009. I was inspired, my friend and I, Karen, we had sort of chatted about this idea because we were both big fans of the X-Files. So I wanted to do something kind of similar, but that it combined all the elements of that show that I really like, conspiracies and mutants and the occult and detectives. And I wrote a screenplay, knowing full well that I would probably never produce it. I would need $1 million or something like that. So I set it in Toronto, where I just moved, and it was kind of an outsider's perspective of the city. I wrote a screenplay, and it just sat there, and it collected dust for a couple of years, and then I thought, I got to do something with this. I had originally been inspired to write a sequel, so I wrote about 2/3 of that, but I dropped it, and I thought, I got to do something with this final transmission script. Originally, it had a different name. I rewrote it as a short film, and I shot it as a web series short film kind of thing, and I did called Project Breakwater. Used some of the same situations and characters, and I just I was never really happy with it, so I rewrote it completely as a novel, and submitted it to a publisher, a bunch of different publishers. The third one that I submitted to accepted it, and the book came out late 2013, early 2014. And since then, I've been plugging away on a sequel and working on another part of the chapter as well.
Chapter 3. Mm-hmm. Now, is this available on ebook version? Because I know, like a lot of people, I got a little 7-inch Android tablet, and that is actually the renaissance for reading for me.
Yeah, it's I believe you can get it for, I think, $3 or something, if it's still available. The publisher has just been bought by a different company, so I don't know exactly what's going on. But originally, the website was Damnation Books. And if you go on my website, brianclement.com, there's links to how you can get the ebook from the publisher. It's really cheap, and you can get it in Kobo, Kindle, whatever formats, PDF you were looking for. Yeah.
We talked a little about this beforehand, thinking about coming up with questions and stuff, but I found it really interesting because it kind of felt like X-Files meets Blade Runner almost, a little bit.
Thanks. That's a pretty good comparison, and I'd say I'm happy with that.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really exciting. Now, we also talked a little bit about maybe some creative questions here, and I actually had asked you some stuff about questions about characters and things, and you had some amazing answers, and now I'm going to have to try to remember what I asked you. So we talked about like dream castings. Who would you cast in this? Or sorry, the sequel is
It's called Assimilation Protocol, is the sequel, and that's set 20 years in the future. So this book, it ends with I don't want to give it away, but it ends with something that very much changes the world. So yeah, and by the time the sequel has come around, the events have taken place. There's mutants everywhere. Cyber technology, nanotechnology, biotechnology has become very prevalent, and things are very different. It's not your typical dystopian future. There's been no apocalypse exactly, but things have just changed a whole lot. It's part of, I guess, and I would say I don't really believe in the whole concept of the end of the world apocalypse, everything falling apart, because really anything that falls apart is just a change, and things are going to be different. So I think that this is not necessarily the destruction of civilization. It's just things have changed so much that some things are unrecognizable, some things are still recognizable, and by the time the sequels come around, it's more. Whereas this one is horror sci-fi, the sequel is more, I guess, sci-fi horror.
Who were your dream castings?
Well, for this one, we've got a main character who's a detective, and I guess, ideally somebody like Denzel Washington or Giancarlo Esposito, somebody like that would be amazing.
Don't you actually have a friend who played the character that was based on this?
Matthew Hemans. He's into film as well, and he played the version of this character that appears in Project Breakwater. His name is Benoit Michaud. Same name, different character, I guess, in that they have diverged significantly between the novel and the short film version of the similar stories. But he would be great to come if we were to be able to play that character.
So what about other characters? How would I get The Rock in this, or Vin Diesel?
Well, there's a lot of badass characters. I mean, there's a sort of a character who appears in a gas mask and a bowler hat. He's not really human. He's sort of an automaton made of a stone-like substance, kind of like a sort of an animated
like film. Rock.
Yeah, so The Rock would be good playing a sort of rock-like character who hunts people down. And that character, the Cleaner, is he hunts down cultists and he works for the secret society. And I guess he's sort of the personification of an animated version of an ideology, this sort of crazed ideal of cleansing and purifying the world. So this secret society, they're kind of bunch of religious fanatics who want to purify the world of unclean elements, and he's kind of their personification of that.
That's really deep. On a totally shallow question, who made the cover art?
One of the people from the publisher. I had nothing to do with it. I just gave them some suggestions, something with a gas mask. I sent them some images from the book trailer that we did for it, which you can watch on my website, on the book's website, thefilmtransmission.com.
There'll be links in the comments below, guys, so you can check out Project Breakwater and links to buy his book directly and send Brian money. But one thing you were telling me in the sequel novel is that the main character isn't the one people think it is.
Yeah, I mean that's what I like to think, is that in the sequel, Assimilation Protocol, the main character that we start to follow from the beginning of the book is a little kid in the first novel. In the second book, 20 years later, he's an adult. He's living in an institution, and we follow him as a kind of a doorway into this new changed world, because he's a lot like us in that he hasn't experienced it. He doesn't know. He's been locked in an institution for 20 years. Everything is new to him, so he's kind of our window into that world. But really, the main character is this woman who's kind of a sort of a humanoid salamander, acts as his bodyguard. She comes out of nowhere and says, "I've been hired to protect you." And he doesn't know who she is or what's going on. And it's really about her emotional journey and her transformation, her coming to terms with who she is, and her transformation, which is kind of a parallel for the transformation the world has undergone. And so she represents thematically the transformation of her own person, as well as the world that we live in, I guess.
And now originally she was a character in the first novel that was supposed to die, and you did something unbelievable. You listened to your editor?
Yeah, my editor suggested that this character was so interesting that why don't I bring this character back? She could be different. Some things could have changed. And so that's exactly what I did. And this character is not who you expect it to be. It's somebody from the first book that you would never guess. And then by this new book, the new novel, she's completely transformed into something completely different. We don't know, who she is. And then she discovers that over the course of the novel. She comes to terms with who she used to be and accepts that part of herself.
That's amazing and super exciting. And cool that you listened to your editor. How is the writing novel? This is your first novel you've had published,
That's
right?
my first novel. It definitely has, it's baby steps. I mean, I'm not going to say it's perfect. It's not a work of amazing literature. I'm not Joseph Conrad or it's not...
Oh, sorry. We are running out of time soon. No, please continue though. No,
it's not Dickens or something like that, but I think that creatively I was able to express myself in a lot of the ways I wanted, and I think the novel really comes through with a more mature, more stylized, more perfected version of proper novel writing, I guess you want to say.
Cool. Well, that's really awesome, Brian. And I know me as a filmmaker, I've thought about writing a novel because I never get budgets for any of the movies I want to make. So maybe I should try writing a novel for
Absolutely,
one of my
concepts. You should. It's way less stressful, I find, than film. As much as I love working in film, it becomes very financially and emotionally taxing, dealing with schedules and actors and renting equipment and renting locations and the weather. Novel, you just sit down, you write. All you got to do is devote a couple hours a night, and it's just that personal discipline, really. It's like working out or going to the gym or setting a schedule for jogging or something like that, it's a lot like that. Only with your brain and your fingers.
That's really cool, Brian. Well, we've run out of time and we need to sum it up. But thanks for joining us. Please check out Brian Clement and his novel, The Final Transmission, and the sequel coming out, Assimilation Protocol. You can check it out in the links below. Buy it off Kindle. Get it on your Android. It's going to be good times. You get a hard copy if you want an analog.
I can sign it for you.
Yep. But thank you, Brian, for joining me. And thanks for coming over to Vancouver visiting.
Thanks, Rob. I love it here.
Yes. Let's get drunk. Cheers. Oh man, I spilled all over myself. Yeah, no. Good pick though. Oh shoot, I totally didn't set up my camcorder. And it looks like all the cameras successfully restarted with the Magic Lantern firmware I'm using. Alright, well, that was it.
Yeah.
Let's just check This episode's brought to you by My Money, paying for Okanagan Springs. All right, here we go. So usually we start on a cheers, and then, oh wait, no, I'll get my watch going. We want to do for about 10 minutes. That's right. So you know where your camera is, and those are the ones you can make like asides to if you feel like it.